Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is OneMicNiteTalk today. I've got Mark Tull here, the licensed clinical psychotherapist, and we got a hot topic we're talking about. We're talking about the conflict in the Middle East. So if you have an opinion, make sure you stick around. Make sure you comment down below because we'd like to hear from you. Get ready, sit back, let us know what you think. This is OneMicNiteTalk. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of One Mic Night, the podcast that brings you stories of artists and people on their journey, helping to guide, answer questions, and motivate you in life and the business. I'm Marcos Luis, and today we're doing a One Mic Night Talk. You already know who my guest is. We haven't seen him in a while. It's licensed clinical psychotherapist and author of the book, The Mental Health Pandemic. It's Mark Tull. Welcome back. How you doing, sir?
Good to be back. It's been a while. How are you?
Definitely has. Well, before we even get started with that, I want to talk about something with you. You just recently got a nice honor, and I want you to tell everybody about it because something really special.
Oh, yeah. It was the International Humanitarian Award from an international organization, United Bridge Builders. And they have, yes, it rolls off your tongue.
It's a tongue twister.
Yes, it is. And it's an organization that provides mental health services and advocacy services for women dealing with domestic violence, not just women, but families. And there is a location in New York as well as in Guyana. So I work in tandem with them, providing mental health services while I'm there, not just to women, but also to men that are being affected by domestic violence. And it was a really great honor. It was quite factual. And I also got a citation from the city council for outstanding work and community service. So it was really nice. Yes.
I would have to say, overall, that's a good day.
It was a very good day.
Wow.
It's great when your work is being recognized. So I'm glad to know that people are aware of it, and it just gives us the impetus we need to continue doing the work that we do, because saving humanity is imperative.
Absolutely. And it's not just a huge organization that does it. We all do it together. One person can do it. And thank you for all the work that you do. And thank you for giving your unrelentless time to coming on One Mic Night podcast and helping the community here and spreading the word and just, being a beacon for our community, our culture, for people in need. And it's a big deal. It's a huge deal.
And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful. And I really think this leads us right into today's topic, where we're talking about this crisis that's going on in the Middle East. And, I'm so much stunned by some of the reports of Jewish college students being attacked on college campuses. And I understand the right for free speech, but free speech should not impede on student safety. And the college has a right to keep your students safe. With that said, I think it's important that we move to a place where do we get to this pivot or this point where we can talk about peace?
Absolutely.
And reconciliation. And I think that, I think it was Queen Nora, the Queen of Jordan, she said that the mothers in Palestine feels no less pain than the mothers in Israel. And I thought that was really deep, because war is horrible. It's not a good thing. It's a negative stain on our humanity. And we're not debating the atrocities that has already happened on both ends, because I think that's like taking sides. I want to stay very middle, where how do we bring these people together and have a conversation of peace, and let us concentrate on what it has done to children, to innocent people, to old people, and we cannot. Let's be very clear: we cannot uphold the behavior of Hamas.
Absolutely not.
We have to be very clear about that.
Absolutely. And that therein lies the problem, is because this, war is not just what happened recently. This has been an ongoing war since way back, since the 40s, where, there's a dispute over the territory. And the UK stepped in to sort of help out, pulled out the troops, and then you still have a volatile situation. So fast forward to what's happening here in the United States, where we have an increase, especially here in New York, in hate crimes, which has increased to almost 200%, in the month of October. Overall crime here in New York City has gone down about 9%, but in terms of the hate crimes against Jewish people, it's gone up about 200%. So where does that leave us? So not only is it the Jewish population here in New York, but vice versa. It's also the Palestinians who are being targeted as well.
Yes.
So where does
and I think we also need to pay attention to that as well.
Absolutely.
Because you can be, I don't want to say anti-Israel, but you can place some responsibility, or whatever you want to call it, on Israel and not be anti-Semitic.
Right.
Because it's a political move and what they're doing, but I really think that it's important for us to have the voice of the Palestinian people, and because they're being persecuted as well. Yesterday on the news, there was a white woman literally attacking a Palestinian man because he was sitting in the park with his child, and she literally went over there and attacked him while he had his child, and that really frightened me in a way, but it also shows us the level of anger that is out there that we must speak to, and really try to have conversations about how do we have reconciliation.
Absolutely.
You cannot continue this.
You cannot. And we know that, wars typically start based on a couple of things. One being religion, two being money, and three being power.
And land.
And land. Absolutely. So where does that put us? Like you said, we go back to what's the humanity of it all? What we understand. From what we understand, I'm going to use this in quotations, Israel is attacking this area, Gaza, to penetrate the underground tunnels of Hamas, which is where the military centers are. However, do you do that in a hospital where you have civilians, where you have children, where you have women, where you have people trying to get help?
And refugee camps, hospitals, and refugee camps, where these are places that are supposed to be safe havens for the innocent. And I think that the proportionality of the response is evidence in the results of how many women and children, 4,000 Palestinian kids, have died.
4,000 that we know of.
Yes,
right. That we know of. Exactly.
Reported. And kids have, they have no power, they don't vote, they can't do much. So it's incumbent upon us to really move this conversation along to the path of reconciliation, ceasefire. Let's have a conversation, because what has happened is bad, and let's be very clear. It's horrific what Hamas did in Israel.
Absolutely.
And those young people at that music camp was horrifying. I was truly shattered when I see some of the stuff that came out. But both sides, we are, as humans, we should be able to sympathize with humanity on both sides, but also not just being stuck in our own silos of, okay, well, I'm pro this or I'm pro that. Where do we get this? Well, I'm pro humanity. And when I
That's
see kids, and when I see kids dying, that speaks to my human, that hurts my humanity. And
absolutely.
I want to give voice to that. So that is what I want to give voice to. How do we get to that space?
I want to say a couple of things here. I heard a report today, and I'm going to kind of read this so you can see. But there were some of the Americans who were being detained in Gaza, trying to get back to the United States. There was one woman, her name is Emily Callahan, and she was with Doctors Without Borders. And she was telling about the conditions that are over there right now. So this goes back to what we're saying about humanity. You have, 50,000 people in camps with 4 toilets. She said she saw kids and people with massive burns on their faces and bodies. There's no water. You can't keep it clean. They can't, help themselves. What kind of conditions are these people living in? That goes back to the humanitarian efforts, that we need.
We need to open those borders and pause so humanitarian need can get in there and help. Because these are the victims of this major catastrophe, and we just cannot stand aside and do nothing. We have to say, we need a pause, we need a ceasefire, we need conversations, we need to meet, we need to talk, we need to find ways of how do we move forward. I was looking at CNN last night, and they were interviewing a Palestinian man about he lost 14 members of his family. 14.
Wow.
How horrific. But the
14.
humanity, yes, the humanity in that. Right after that, they interviewed a Jewish rabbi that had family in Israel that was affected. And the rabbi said, first of all, I want to say my condolences goes out to this man and his family because I have children. And the fact that he lost his family, that impacts me as well. And I said, this is the level of humanity we need to see.
Right.
That I know we have different ideologies, but pain is pain, and I can relate to your loss. And I think if we can hold on to that and capture that, that is powerful.
It's
But
very,
how do we get there?
I think that's, those are the things that are fueling some of the hate crimes that are here. It's what's happening there. And then we come here to protest, and people get so heated and they don't see that the answer may be peace. What's the reconciliation? So then everyone lives in fear of each other, which we know fear is something that we put on ourselves, but the retaliation, the hurt, the physical harm that people then place on each other, it just fuels the fight.
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation with a few young African American men that are in college, and we were talking about the same issue. And one of them, because some of the Jewish students were saying, they don't feel safe walking around campus. It's very scary for them. They don't want to identify as Jew or go to any of the Jewish spaces. I wonder, young African American men say yes, that this is how we feel every day. And that really floored me.
That's the food for thought there.
Yes.
That's definitely the food of thought. I want to talk really quickly about, what I think the conflict is over. And I think that there are about 4 or 5 things that, really cause this thing. And number one, it's the dispute over the territory, because historically, like I said, back in 1948, it kind of went back and forth. There were several wars, one in 1967, 85, 94, over who actually owned the West Bank and Gaza. So like we said, it's over land. The second one is about security and the terrorism that goes along with it. So each side is sort of figuring out, are we going to be bombed? Who's going to be bombed next? This is our territory. This is our land. And it always creates another force of, disruption. The third is probably, what is actually the state of Palestine? We know that the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, and Hamas, and everybody's trying to figure out how the government is going to run there. Who's in control? The fourth thing we have to consider is what exactly the refugees are going to do. There's been a long history of the Palestinian refugees, living in depressed societies. Where do they go? Where are they going to go? How are they living? How are these people living? And once you get to a point where you're living, under someone's thumb, at some point, you're going to fight back. You're going to have an uprising. A revolution is going to occur. So if you're feeling like you're being depressed by a situation, there's going to be some sort of recourse.
Correct.
And the last thing I think is probably like the role that the international countries play in it. Who else is joining into this whole fight? Who else is fueling this fight? And what do we do about it? You have, the Western world and the Eastern world doing things. The United States is standing behind Israel, because they're in the center. They have a power. They have a port where the United States can go with their military, maybe, to combat against the Arab nations, because typically the Arab nations haven't supported the United States. So you have a whole bunch of factors going on there. So then where do the people here in the United States feel like they fit in? And I think that's where the protests start to come from. And you get those sort of hate crimes happening. I mean, it's very clear that the United States is standing with right now.
Yeah. And it's eye-opening to see that young people are very much against the war and against, I don't want to say they're pro-Palestinian, but I think what they're saying is like, listen, you need to look at both sides and we need to come. But I think they're saying the same thing where we're trying to have a conversation about how can we resolve this?
Absolutely.
And where do we meet in the middle to have a conversation? But also, how do we de-escalate these situations? Because my fear tells me, as we get closer to the 24 election, these things are going to escalate. And they're going to start escalating in other communities. And that is cause for concern, because this is just a microcosm of what's going to be happening a year from now.
I would have to agree with you. And so what do we do? I guess is the question. Where do we go?
I guess we got to form coalitions. We have to form coalitions with people that don't look like us, that don't understand us. But just for the sake of humanity, that we have to put up a united front saying, as human beings, these are things that should not be happening. So who do we reach out to and how do we have these conversations? I think the college campus is a great place to start, but right now that space is so infused with anger, that may not be the right place to start, but it could start in a community space.
It can. And here's the other thing. This is kind of a side note, but it's on the same page. I feel like colleges now have become more concerned with being a business rather than allowing the students to do things like protest, because they feel like they won't get funding if they allow the students to go and protest against certain political issues. So that stifles the people who are actually, one, the future of this country, and two, who have the power to make the change. Right. So we're in a whole tricky situation.
We really are. We really are. And yeah, so you mess with their pockets, they're good. They're not going to tolerate, because it's endowment and foundation money funds a lot of the research at universities, and they depend on that. So yeah, but we still have to put humanity at the focus and at the forefront of everything that we're doing, and really want to have these conversations of healing, because I really think healing has to begin somewhere, somehow, and the sooner the better. We can't wait for the war to end to have reconciliation. If we start our process now, maybe the war will end a little faster.
And that's the
And
bottom line. Yeah, that is definitely the
we have
bottom
to,
line.
and we have to call on the neighboring countries to contribute and to force dialogue and to say, listen, we cannot have this region break out in a war. We have to do everything we can to save it and to bring humanity together so Jews and Palestine can coexist, feeling a sense of safety and security within their own spaces.
And there you have it. Well, we'd like to know what you guys think about it too. Please make sure you comment down below. Yeah, this is a very hot topic, and it's so much bigger than just this war. It's about human life and people in general.
And I really hope that we've done it justice.
I hope so too.
From the perspective of humanity, and we're not taking sides. We're not advocating for one thing. The only thing we advocate for is humanity to come together and do right.
Absolutely. The consciousness of humanity.
Yes.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us for One Mic Night Talk. Once again, my name is Marcos Luis. You can find me at MarcosLuis. How can they find you, ShaneTull?
ShaneTull on Facebook and TULL at tull.cpc@gmail.com. Can't miss me. I'm all over.
And if you'd like to contribute to the show and come on and talk with us, please let me know at One Mic Night Talk. You can find the show at OneMicNite, OneMicNite. Please make sure you like these episodes and let us know what you think. We appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.